Hey. So, I guess I better give some filler detail on everything that transpired in North Carolina. So, uh, I was raised by many and had, like I said, extended families, both non-biological and biological. Um, and one of those being um, the family that tethers me to this circumstance in North Carolina. And this individual, when we were younger people, like late teens, early 20s, uh, that's when I met this individual. Um, and in her teenage life, she started off, you know, suffering quite a bit of pain. She was a teenage mother, and the father of her child was murdered. Um, so she was left fatherless, and his mother, I wouldn't say tormented, but she would go and cry and sleep and bang on the door, begging for her to give her grandchild because because the child's father had been killed, and she was distraught. And of course, setting aside whatever her part in his path was that put him in that fatal circumstance. And I always say we have a huge responsibility of how we raise our kids and where we raise our kids as to some of the outcomes that they may potentially face, and that it is important and it cannot be underestimated or second guessed. Um, but having that weight already, having lost the child of the father of your child, and then the pressure of his mother pressuring her to supplement her loss by Robert, which was her son, and then the father's mother's son's name was Robert as well. He's awesome. He's a police officer now. He goes out there and protects the community, and that's awesome. That despite suffering, being having your father murdered at such a young age, and growing up without your father, to grow to be a protector of the people, that's like super awesome. Um, but after that happened, she was also sexually assaulted as a teenage girl, just before 18, and had a baby out of that sexual assault, and still chose to raise her child out of love. And even though I hate to say it like this, her second child was not born out of love; it was born out of something abhorrent. Um, she never blamed that on her daughter or child, and raised her with as much love as she could muster. And so that just gives you a baseline to understand what kind of pain and suffrage this individual suffered early on in life. And you have to forgive me, I'm a little bit under the weather. I got a little sick off that North Carolina trip. Um, so going out into the world and working, she managed car dealerships in Florida, and she met this guy, Michael Labani, who's from Marquette, Michigan. And again, he presented himself as one individual and later turned out to be something completely different. A bit of a disturbing individual as well. And he took off, ironically, with the help of her daughter, who we speak of that she raised out of love. They worked together and took off with her son to Marquette, Michigan, where this guy wields all the power. It's similar to what she's dealing with in North Carolina, where this guy's family is very interwoven. It's like they've been there for generations after generation, and there's many of them, and she was there by herself. She's not from Sanford, North Carolina. She's not from North Carolina at all. And when her father died, she was vulnerable. She was that's her father was her like world, I mean, outside of her children, what I mean is, her father was like, you know, she looked up to him. And so when he passed, she was vulnerable, and that's when she met this individual that y'all have seen in the video, which is her husband that assaulted her. And who he presented himself, we're finding out is not who he is. That it's at least understood that from what we've been told is he could be a predator, and that he goes out there and he will seek out women that are successful, as I've mentioned before. He will pretend to be successful, but he utilizes that to scam these women into believing that he's different than who he really is. And after he assaulted her, as you can see in the video, and he had thrown her out of a car just before that, and then this incident happened, we found a post on the internet about this young woman out of Pennsylvania, and she really opened Pandora's box and gave us a lot of information that was not known. I mean, he was out philandering and scamming other women and just doing horrible things to add on to what he was doing to this young lady who already had been through all this trauma. And she had received notification that, hey, your child has gotten some kind of trouble in Michigan. And then she was able to go, and we've seen all the CPS reports of how bad that Michael Labani was beating her son since he was 4 years old. Horrible stuff. And so there's no question, this isn't my perception, this isn't how I feel. We've got the receipts. And Marquette, Michigan will be coming to deal with y'all next. And that's what these people who hurt children, or the enablers, or the people that allow them to prefer these kind of behaviors, they have to be held accountable. And they have to know that people will come and bring awareness, shed light on the darkness that is. And so last week when I spoke to her, I haven't spoken in some time since she came back from Marquette, and she was trying to dial in her marriage. I've been telling y'all about the food truck. She's been working on starting a food truck business out there. She bought the food truck itself. She bought a truck, spent like $10,000 down payment, $40,000 down on a house. And this guy didn't put in no money at all, but he's saying these are his things. It's crazy, even though the court paperwork says otherwise. Multiple times during this 5 days that I was there, he's tried to demand that these things are his, which it's insane. You've seen the video, and there's more to come, but things got out of control. The guy was in Greensboro, South Carolina. He was stalking her the whole time through the Ring cameras. And when we tried to remove one of the Ring cameras, that's when he started threatening our lives, and it just went to a whole different level of crazy. And at that point, that's when it has to transition over. You got to step aside and let law enforcement do what they do. And so we're requesting the subpoena to get the Ring video because he deleted it. And then once we have that, y'all can hear it directly. I've been able to put forward a part of a recording that we have that we were able to make surreptitiously while he was, at the tail end of making the threats. But if you listen to the video, you can kind of tell that he was getting aware that he was. So he was very cautious, and then he didn't say anything no more after that. So I knew it was game over, at least on that. So we reached out to Ring, and we're working with Lee County to get that other recording, which will lock things in and put it set in stone. But these people, these actors of these horrible behaviors, they got to know that there's people out there that will go, and we will share this information. We will put it out there. It has to be righteous and proper, but we will put the information forward and show these people for who they are. What else can you do but to expose the truth as a safeguard for a lie?